This is TMI. I'll be starting off with education. Yes, state of education in Nigeria. 18 years benchmark. How is going to affect education in Nigeria? With me here in the studio, I have an educationist, a doctor, a PhD in that particular era. Join me to welcome Dan. And no, I'll go name. Hope I got that name. Yeah.
Very well.
It's quite long. It's quite long.
Very well.
Thank you so much for coming.
Good morning.
And of course, I have Barrister Joshua Anebokai.
My pleasure.
Welcome. And joining us from the U.S., New Jersey, Honorable Ehi Igariba. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from the U.S.
Morning and good morning, viewers. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Honorable Ehi. Well, let me start off with Dan. 18 years, and that is causing reports. But you are saying that, look, this isn't fair. Because we have situations whereby you get to see instances of geniuses, as in they're so intelligent despite their age, despite their size, despite their maturity in quote. But they can take on late if they are allowed 15, 16 to enter into school. What will it give rise to this change?
Right. You see, Nigerians, the problem we are having is that most times we don't read. 18 years, just that the minister just re-echo it. Now let us go to the structure of education in Nigeria. We have 6, 3, 3, 4. 6 years in the primary, 3 years in the junior secondary, and 3 years in the senior secondary. If you put that together, and you are supposed to start school at the age of 6. So if you put that, that accumulates already 18. However, we decided to also compress it to 9, which is the primary and the GSS together to make it basic, and also 3 for secondary, senior secondary now. Then if you also put them together, it will also give you 18. Now, you will discover that the law also also recognize juniors, also recognize special people. Then I see that long ago we have this school in Cuba for school of the gifted, special children. So however, for the minister to have said this, is just to re-echo what is already in place by the structure we are operating. If you start the school at age 6, you spend 6 years in the primary, and you spend 3 years in the secondary. If you put all together, 3 years in the senior secondary, that is already 18 years for you. So I don't know why Nigerians now, we are now, raising doors. This is already there. So if you want to raise doors, let us go and fundamentally fight the structure of our educational system, which is the 6, 3, 3, 4. And also, probably we want to review the age of entry. We want to also review the age of entry, because the statutory age of entry is in primary 1 is 6 years old.
Okay.
So we are not saying that there are no exceptional children. So those exceptional children, I know the law also have provision for them on how they can also harness their potential very young, and also put them back to the system. So for me, is the right step in the right direction.
The right step in the right direction.
That is it.
Barrister Joshua, when you got to hear of this particular news or report, some are saying it's been there, but they're just doing their own thing the way they feel like doing it, depending on the smartness of a particular child. Be like, look, despite the fact that you are below 18, if you can ace your jam, ace the the whatever, this kind of internal examination, then you are good to go. What do you feel about this?
All right. I think Prof has actually, dealt with the issue actually, but where I actually share a different view slightly, in as much as Prof has said that, these things has actually been there, being an educationist, he knows much better as he has educated us. I think for me, the educational system in Nigeria has been bastardized, unfortunately, and you cannot compare our education system with that of other countries, or let's put to say the Western world. However, you cannot really determine the speed or the, how will I put it, the efficiency of a child when the child is growing up. No, so I do not think, I think there are other things to bother in the educational sector. You understand? There are other things to actually look into the educational sector, the structure, the body, the teaching, how students are being taught, not actually the age value as the case may be. However, there are some children who are in fact, children that they give birth to these days are smarter than, they call them the Gen Zs. The millennial, which some of us fall under, we are not as smart as these children of this generation. So I see it as a setback for a child to be, who is doing very, very smart. And you are trying to say because of the educational system, you should slow him down. A child that can take SSC, when we're growing up, then you see some persons take SSC from even SS2, and they do extremely well and better than those persons in SS3. And we have heard so many times of where we hear someone is a young professor at the age of 20 something is a professor. So now, if this kind of educational system, going forward, tries to slow you down or maybe tries to put you on a check, I don't think we'll be having an educationist or a prof at a very tender age. You understand? So I think what the government should focus into is the structure, like Prof said. The educational system has been bastardized. So many things need to be looked at. Our learning system. When I was in school, I was looking the way we were taught in school. When I came out, practical is quite easier than
Theory.
teaching. Than theory.
All right. All right. Now let's get to hear from Ehi Gariba, all the way from the U.S. New Jersey. Let's get to hear how it's being done there in the United States. Honorable, I believe you've heard the story about this reform saying that we have to stick to status quo 18 years or else forget about entering tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Now, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I think the Honorable Minister of Education was simply re-echoing an existing law. However, maybe the national educational policy in Nigeria, which was stating that children should start their educational a program from the primary school at 6 years, and they were expected to go through 6 years of primary school and 6 years of secondary school under the 6334, which is even sometimes flawed because it was expected that there will be 4 years in a tertiary institution. However, there are several courses like medicine, like engineering, like pharmacy that are more than 4 years. So I don't know why that 4 years was put there in the first place. Right here in the United States, there is no age cap for getting into the university. There is no such thing as 18 years, and there is a method here whereby there are the children that are gifted are specifically looked out for. I'll tell you something. There is what you call the early college here in the United States. From when a child gets into 10th grade, which is about our SS1 over there, certain children are allowed to take certain courses which will give them university credits that will make them graduate sooner than other people when they get into the university. They can cut their university years from 4 to 3. So while they are in school with other high school or secondary school students, they also take extra courses to accumulate credits against their college years. And some go ahead while they are in secondary schools, some go ahead to take courses from the community college. The community college is a 2-year program. So what they do is, while they are in high school from the same 10th grade, courses for those 2 years in the community, which is going to give them an associate degree, which is like all these NC in Nigeria, like university diplomas. They can get it while they are still in secondary school. Those courses are, added up to their high school or secondary school work, so that when they are graduating in regular time, they graduate from high school, and at the same time they are graduating from that same community college. They would have spread the courses. So all of these things are not available in Nigeria. The reason that is basic, which I believe our honorable minister should have looked at, is the causa effect. Why are children graduating at younger ages. I had children who spent some years in school in Nigeria before they came back here to the United States. What I found out is common to children now in schools in Nigeria is that previously in my time, we spent 3 years in nursery school. There was nursery 1, nursery 2, and nursery 3. But now people skip nursery 1. Then you go on to the primary school. Most children skip primary 6. They just do primary 1 to 5. Then you go on to high school or secondary school. In Nigeria, most children are going to skip the SS3 and try those exams in SS2, pass, and move on to the university. So that way, about 3 years of their learning process has been removed, which now put the average child at 15 or 16 when they are getting to university. What is the reason for this? The reason is quite simple. Most of the students today are attending private schools and the fees are astronomical. So parents are finding a shortcut to reduce the cost of training their children. So if they take those 3 years out of it, it reduces the cost, that they are going to spend for their children while going through school.
Back to you, Honorable Ahi. Well, Dr. Dan, you heard him. He said in America they don't have age cap,
Yeah.
no limit. You have what they call early college. Depends on how smart you are. Some are saying that this may not just be far from the fact that Nigeria is churning out graduates more than they can employ or engage. That may be the reason why they choose to say, look, you have to do this to help the government breathe, so to speak. Now, what do you have to say about this
Well, for me,
allegation against the government?
for me, that may not be true. I want to say here to correct something. You cannot keep quality because of cost implication. No, because I'm a quality person. Now, when you talk about education, education is not just somebody knowing. Education is knowing, possessing it, and doing it. Sometimes I see children saying traffic light, traffic light. You see the traffic light, there's something you must do. Red means stop. They'll be reciting it. Yeah. But when it gets to the traffic light, even when they say stop, they are still moving.
But a lot of not bad parenting.
But they can't recite it. But they don't possess it. They cannot apply it. So we don't want that kind of education. Like my friend said, quality education is key. We should maybe shift away from even the age, be looking at the content, our curriculum. As I speak just now, those government, they are already doing what called a scheme of work, uniform scheme of work. I'm a part of the process. What did we discover? We discovered that there was a gap in the curriculum, and he said, well, that's okay, fine. Since they gave us a minimum curriculum, please teachers, selected teachers who are experts in their field, add most of these things to make this curriculum rich for an average Edo child. Are you getting me now? So that is the major focus. But for the age, before anything can be done, we must go back to the structure, age of entry, the school system, and the 6334. Let us go there. When there is no law, there is bound to be anarchy. So we must, if there are laws or policy as regard entry, we must follow it. However, the government, in their wisdom, also know that we have exceptional children. And I've said, if there are exceptional children, and you go to the Ministry of Education, they will tell you what to do. Oh, my child is exceptional. They'll tell you where to take that child to, the appropriate place to take that child to. You see some children graduating before stipulated time. So, for me, if we want to see maintain that, like what they do in the US, like what my friend said, that's the major reason we have programs like NCE, diploma, okay, where you can spend 2 years, 3 years, as the case may be, in related field you want to do in a university. So when you do that, you go to NC, you do diploma in that course you want to go and do, you find that by the time you now go into the university proper, you will be having undergraduate or non-graduate later quality ones, not graduates that can recite, that can memorize what they are being taught, but by principle they cannot possess those things they are being taught. They can also not apply. There tend to be disconnect between the world of work and the school system. So about time you want to emphasize on age, on that, you are leaving the main thing, which is the curriculum issue. And how is this our curriculum fit in into the current trend globally? So at the age of 6, even a child in Nigeria can do coding using SPSS and other software. That's what we want. Not at university level, you are still telling a child, this is a mouse, this is hardware for computer. No, we've passed that level.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, you've heard both of them. In America, no age cap, no age limits. If you are strong enough intellectually, definitely the system will help you to achieve your aims, your goals at a stipulated time. But right now, there is this law. It's been there on the ground. Some are saying that we have better things to look at. If you stick to this plan, you're going to impede the creativity of some of these children. You're going to restrict them in the sense that they want to move forward because, like what you said, Gen Zs, they want to go fast, but you're dragging them back. Do you think that is helping the system? We talk about education.
All right, Mr. Wilson, it's very laughable when you said that the minister said that to reduce the rate of, that's a very fatal, obnoxious excuse.
No, these are just speculations making the rounds.
All right,
He never said that.
let it-
Speculations making the
okay,
rounds. And look, maybe
let us-
because Nigerian university are trying out graduates.
Let us leave it. Let
People
us
are not employed.
leave it as speculation.
Very well.
These are speculations. He never said that,
Speculations.
please.
Like my
Yes.
brother said from the
Yes.
US. See,
Yeah.
see that the US is they are far ahead of us. Yes, but now this 6-3-3 formation you're talking about. What is formation without information? It leads to deformation. Now you gave an example of a traffic light. You will say red is stop, green go. But is there practical? Is there practical? Have you taken those children to the traffic point to say, apart from bad behavior, and because of the way sometimes we are very unconscious or we are trying to hurry to where, apart from bad behavior, how do we take our children to those points to say, okay, this light, this is red, apart from showing them in the paper? That is what we call practical example. We don't even necessarily need to even go deep to coding. These are very simple things. It still boils down to the structure of our educational system. Yeah, for example, you are talking about the US we're talking about, they have other methods of teaching children. You cannot go to a laboratory in Nigeria and compare a laboratory in the United States of America. Because why? The science students here will take their time to be reading what is surgery, analogy, and all those things. But you see, in advanced country, there are practical examples. So it is easy to learn when you see them than when you try to put them in your mind. Basically. So let us really address the issue of the structure, the system, not really the children or this educational how will I put it now, school structure or the timing. You understand? I think it's the structure we need to address. You cannot take a child. You can see children of 3, 2. They are playing with mobile gadgets already.
Very well.
2 years old, mobile gadget already. In my time, if I finish drinking a camufa, I will not play with the mobile gadget. So that is it.
All right. Now let's get straight down to the US where Honorable he is standing by the issue of maturity, emotional maturity, psychological maturity. After all, the university comes with so much stress, so much pressure. Some are saying that if a child is not mentally strong, is not mentally dogged, he or she might not be able to replicate what he or she has learned at a certain institution in real life situation. Hence that 18 years benchmark. What do you have to say about this?
Well, emotionally, yes, it's important for children to attain a certain level of maturity. But that is not to say that there's any evidence that there's been studies, to elicit that data in Nigeria to support the fact that, children who are less than 18 years have exhibited any level of immaturity upon admission into tertiary institutions. I thought studies should have been carried out. I think the basic challenge we are having in Nigeria today is that of cost of educating children, because most parents have, have the quest for their children to have quality education, and that has taken them into the private institution. I'll just read that or tell you certain from my research. I found out that in the United States, only about 10% of students are going to private schools. In the UK, it's about 18%. But it will surprise you that in Nigeria, about 65% of senior secondary school students are in private schools, 65, a whopping 65%. And universities, private universities, about 51% privately owned in Nigeria, which means 1 out of 2 universities in Nigeria, or more than 1 out of 2, are owned by private persons. Then, more importantly, this year, only about 20% of students who pass their JAM will have places to go into in Nigerian universities. We don't have those kind of shortages in the advanced world, because there's proper planning. This is where data comes in. Data comes in that you have to know from birth how many children you gave birth to in your states, in your country. Unfortunately, everything is lumped at the federal government. I doubt if you have any local government will on their own know how many children were born in that local government, or if any state know how many children were really born. They have to depend on the data from the federal government. And if you do have that data, did you plan that at age 6, all of these children are going to go into primary school? Do you have enough classrooms and seats in those classrooms for those children? If you don't, and that spills over to the secondary school, and of course the tertiary institution, where over 80% of children that will do well in their JAM this year will not be getting admission into universities. Therefore, parents are seeking alternatives, because of the lack of infrastructure to cater for their wards. So that is why there is such a massive movement into the private schools, and the costs are, of course, astronomical. Then when you talk about maturity, there is a bypass to all of this. I think there should be a proper recalibration, of the Nigerian educational system. It's just not being able to do what education should do for other economies. Education is supposed to be a huge spur for the growth and development of every country, but it's just not happening for us right now in Nigeria, because my good friend had mentioned that there is a structure such that gifted children are taken out of the system. But is this practicable? The answer is no. How many of such gifted children? I went to the university, I didn't see any child who was gifted at the University of Benin when I was there. It was said, oh, this child is 12 years old. As a result of exceptional talents, this child has been brought here to be properly catered for. Those children, of course, on paper, that institution exists, but in reality, it's just a fallacy.
All right. All right. Well, you heard him, data analysis, data collection. And now you get to realize that sometimes what is obtainable in government universities, they're not obtainable in the private university. Do you think that this would not cause an influx in the private universities, knowing fully well that some of these children, like taking me now for instance, I took my first shot at German when I was in SS2. That was like, just give it a shot. All right. And my other brother were like, we did was like, okay, fine. That prepare you for SS3. You understand? So if some of these persons are being impeded by this regulation, you do think that they opt to go into private institution that might, in quote now, not follow that directive?
Very well. Very well. That was saying, you see, when you make a law, and the law is most time only enforceable in one segment, that's what you will get. Of course, if it's enforced in the public university, there's a leeway for them to move to private, they will definitely move. Nobody wants to be straitjacketed. For me, like I said, let us, if I agree with some of the submission from my brothers, let us look at our structure again. Let us review it in line with the current trend of things, and so as we will not stampede our children, and also keep quality. I can tell somebody, we have had graduates, very exceptional ones, at age 21, 18, 19, but emotionally they are not strong. Critical thinking they cannot provoke it. So what's the essence of education? If it's just knowing and you cannot possess it and you cannot apply it, it's useless. So education ought to be all round. In as much as I want to agree that we should look fundamentally at our structure again, look at the age of entry, and also create awareness, like what my brother said. Yes, these institutions are there, but they are not being known to people. For example, if your child is an exceptional child, there's a place you can go to the ministry. Actually, I know of that, the Ministry of Education in Edo State, and when they see it, they do the normal check and advise where your child will go to. We have it there. But how many parents actually know this? Okay, so we also have a problem of communication gap. Those responsible at the level of ministry and other parastatals to educate the masses on all of these things appear not to be doing their job. Now, we talk about data. There is no country that can grow without data. All our decisions must be data driven.
No, we don't have that in this country.
We don't have that, and we have it. We have it, but we have them in they are all solo here and there. I tell you the truth, but if you have data synchronization,
are you speaking for Edo State of other states?
Well,
because
I may not be able to speak.
You know that we don't have it in this country.
In Edo State,
maybe a local government may just have it,
yes,
but we don't have adequate data to know this information that will help us revamp our education.
I'm not the commissioner for communication or whatever in Edo. But I know that in Edo State here we have data, but my issue is this data appear not to be harnessed together. For example, if you go to the bank, they ask you to submit some data. Yes. If you go to NIM office, you submit. Anything you want to do, you submit. But however, if we are able to synchronize this data, you will discover that we have data right from day one. So if all the agency parastatals involved are able to come together, bring all the data they have and synchronize it to have a mega data, you see that decision will be made squarely. For example, I did a bit of education and planning. You cannot plan for what you don't know. You cannot plan for what you don't know. If we know how many children, which we have statistical tools to determine how many children will be giving birth to in Nigeria in Edo State per year, and we know how to project how many will come within now to the next 10 years, how many children will be of school age, we know how to now plan for them. However, what do you see? You see people sitting down there planning for what they don't know. Planning, they are not experts in educational planning because they are elected into one position. They bring laws that are not okay. They bring policies without coming to the academia, to those or the ministry in charge to say, oh, we want to plan for children for the terms of education. Please, do you have the required data for us to use to plan? They just sit down there. It's just like these days, you are planning curriculum for children, and you don't involve the children. The curriculum will not see the light of day. So you must involve them in planning for them. Right. Just like when I was still very strong in the youth movement, I will always tell the government then, you cannot plan for us. The Joint Commissioner for Youth and Sport will tell you, look, you cannot plan for us. If you must carry out any program for youth, you must involve the youth to plan these things. All right. So the same with our children. Our children, they are smart kids. So you involve them. If they tell you, if you see what they do with our smartphones and the rest, our parents, even our teachers, cannot even do that.
And you're putting a benchmark for them 18 years. So don't think you're restricting them.
That's what I'm saying is that we need to come back to the drawing board and look at our structure. All right. And the 18 years can still be achieved because we will have a level where you get to, there's another pre-level to the university where all of these soft skills and emotional intelligence and all that will be developed. Then when you are not fully ready for the university,
are you talking about College of Education,
polytechnics, then School of Health, Science, Technology. You have so many of these courses for 2 years. Imagine a child is able to finish the secondary school for, say, 16 years.
And who will foot the bill?
Huh?
Who will foot the bill?
Most of these things are not too expensive, so to say.
All right.
Especially when it comes to government institutions.
Okay. All right. Let's get to your last line because I have to go for the second discussion. Second, what advice do you have for the government? Because you have spoken at length,
Yes.
saying you can't just have this delay to learn some other skills before you
Yes.
get to 18. That will still help. After all, Honorable, he talked about it. You know, you can get some extra credit, then you move forward.
Yes.
Take it up from there.
All right. Prof has actually dealt with it exhaustively, but as an added on, we might not entirely put the blame on the government and the structure alone. You know, to me, it is 50-50. You know, the government needs to come back to the, drawing board. Then the parent has a major work to also do. It is one thing for you to send your child to school. It's another thing for you to pay keen interest on what that child is doing. You understand? Mr. He talked about emotional and psychological balance. You understand? If you are not emotionally ready and psychologically ready for something, I don't think you can be able to achieve that thing. So it is all way around.
All way around. Yes. Thank you so much. Well, Honorable, what advice do you have for the government briefly before going to the next discussion segment?
Well, for me, I think the government need to review. There should be a complete revamp of our educational system, such that if it is obvious, we have tried a British system, which was 5 years in secondary school with A levels, but it failed. We have also tried the US system, which is the 6-3-3-4 system, but in implementation, it has also failed because there are not enough technical schools to support the other 4 years, the last 3 years in secondary school, where certain percentage of students are to go into technical aspect and some continue with the educational aspect. So there should be a state of emergency declared in our educational system because we need our students to be able to drive our economy. They are the future, and therefore we must equip them adequately for the country to have a brighter future. So the government must call our critical stakeholders together and make comparison with what is going on in the advanced countries, like in the US, in the UK, in Russia, in China, and come up with something that is indigenous to us so that we can use those students to drive our economy for growth and development of the country.
Honorable, well, you've heard him. We have to keep trying, keep fine-tuning till we'll get it right. Many are not so happy with this 18 years benchmark. It's been there. They're saying, look, our trader intelligence, you put in that benchmark, you are slowing them down. You are making them to go slow, and nobody wants to go slow. Just go out there, achieve it, get that degrees, go for your master's if you can go for your master's, PhD if you can go for a PhD, or better say go get a job. Must they wait till they get to 18 years, even when you know that intellectually speaking, they are sound? Of course, when the government angle, maturity. I remember when I was at the university, I was just entering, and this lady's just graduating. Guess what? She was 21 then. I was like, what? 4 years, because I did the math. Well, that means you kept it for 15 years. Well, I'm true. I was like, what? And I'm older than you. Anyway, let's see how all this will pan out. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate the comment, Dan.
Thank you.
Now your name is long. But I like the name. Thank you so much.